Hey, what's good everybody? Ron Howard back again with another vlog. So this week's vlog is actually directed towards my creative folks out there. So I don't know if you guys are like me, but there are times when I sit down and I'm trying to do like creative work and I just kind of have like a brain freeze and I find myself unable to get into my creative process. I have like this creative block. And that can be really stressful, especially when you're being paid by clients to be able to get this work done and you're unable to think of things. But over the years, I've been able to come up with a few different processes to kind of help me get out of that creative rut whenever that happens. So if it's cool, I'm gonna share that with y'all today. But before I can share any of those with y'all, you already know what we gotta do. Please cue the intro. All right, so something that I've implemented in my life and my creative process over the last few years has really helped me out whenever I find myself in a creative rut is journaling. Yes, journaling. Journaling helps out a lot because a lot of times it helps me like sort out my thoughts and ideas, and a lot of times if I'm unable to find inspiration, I can write out how I'm feeling at the moment. A lot of times I can actually use a lot of that information to create content. And let me define journaling. A lot of times when people hear journaling, they think that somebody's sitting down and writing these really long paragraphs and pages of just these super in-depth thoughts. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that deep. For me, something that helps is I keep a little notebook like this around, and a lot of times it's just me writing like a sentence or two or something that just happens to be on my mind. Sometimes it may be a paragraph, sometimes it may be a few pages, but the important thing is I'm documenting those thoughts and just kind of getting the idea of how I feel at the moment, and I can reference that information to create things later on. The journaling is something that I think that creatives can just benefit off of in general, just because I think when you get in the process of expressing those thoughts and feelings on a daily basis, I think it makes it a lot easier for you to tap into your creative source and work out your thoughts and be inspired to create different pieces of artwork. So if you're not journaling, I would strongly encourage you to start journaling today. Something else that I've really gotten the habit of doing whenever I find myself like in a creative rut, and this is something I think that people should do anyway, but study the greats. It's been beneficial for me whenever I find myself in a rut to be able to stop and check out like the creative works of like artists and thinkers and creatives that I really admire. Like oftentimes whenever I watch like a Spike Lee movie and I see just kind of the way he like frames up his shots or the way he delivers stories, it inspires me. And a lot of times it kind of like, even the themes that he talks about, a lot of times it provokes these thoughts, or it causes me to have these thoughts and which turn into ideas. And it's the same thing whenever I see like artists work or I listen to like musicians play. It's just being able to pull from that. Studying the greats is something that you should be doing anyway as a creative, because I feel like that's one of the best ways to kind of like hone in on your craft is by studying like the techniques of the people that came before you and people that are revered as great in whatever field it is, and being able to just learn from what they've already done. All right, so another unconventional process that I've started to kind of implement into my life to help me get out of these creative ruts is I've started to meditate and also just working out. I know for me, oftentimes, because now that I've started to get busier and I find myself juggling multiple projects on top of just living life, a lot of times I get so stressed out that I think I create my own creative block because I just have so much going on. A lot of times I just have to even out my mind. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by meditating and just trying to clear out my mind a little bit, try to focus in on what it is I'm stressing about, just kind of work through some of those issues. And the working out piece of it is something that I've really got into over the last 2 years or so, but I find that it's helped me out a lot creatively, again, because it's almost like a form of meditation when I'm like running. I'm like an avid jogger now, but I love to run, and when I'm running, I can kind of gather my thoughts while I'm out running. And also if I feel like I'm too tense or I've just got a lot of stuff going on, by the time I worked out or meditated, I'm able to work through all that and I can sit back down and look at my project with the clear mind, and I'm ready to just kind of go to work. So next time you find yourself in a rut, go ahead and try to meditate or put on some gym clothes and go work out and see if that helps you out or not. So this is probably one of my favorite things to do whenever I find myself in a creative rut, is to go hang out with other creative people. And this is something, again, another thing I think you should just be doing anyway if you're an artist or a creative. It's something so awesome about being in a community of other creatives and being able to have dialogue with them about what projects they're working on, or be able to bounce ideas back and forth and get feedback on what you're working on. It's just really cool to kind of be around these kind of really eccentric artistic people from all these different lanes of life. Oftentimes when you have these conversations and you're having this dialogue with these people, it can inspire like different thoughts and ideas, and kind of, I know for me, it just gets me really hyped up to be hanging around these brilliant creatives, and it motivates me to go home and try to just create something. Something else that I've started to implement in my life whenever I find myself in a creative rut is, if I'm like just sucking artistically on one particular thing and I'm feeling uninspired at one particular artistic craft, it's always cool to just try to do something else artistically. And it's okay if it's completely unrelated to whatever your primary creative endeavor happens to be. Oftentimes if I'm sitting down at the computer trying to edit a project for somebody and I just get to the point that I'm so sick of looking at timelines and I feel like I'm going to yell if I have to stare at another timeline, I often like to take breaks and I'll pick up my harmonica or my ukulele, or I'll start painting or drawing or doing something else to kind of get my mind off of that. And oftentimes what'll happen is I'll find myself being able to draw in inspiration from these other creative tasks. All right, so something else that helps me out quite a bit whenever I find myself in a creative rut, and something that I would suggest that you guys do, is just simply to show up. Like, there's often times when I don't feel inspired at all to create, but when I sit down, I'm able to get an idea and then it just takes off from there. I think people have this misconception about being motivated creatively. People often think that they're gonna have this whimsical aha moment and they're gonna have a light bulb pop up over their head, and then they're gonna be motivated to write an entire novel or write a whole album or this super detailed, awesome piece of art in one setting, which I don't want to sound negative because it can happen. I'm sure that it does happen to a lot of people like that, but a lot of times I think you have to put yourself in the position to actually have that inspiration. I'm an avid believer that inspiration is not always something that finds you. Oftentimes you have to put yourself in a position to find inspiration. So I would always advocate that artists show up, approach your art like a job. Like, if you know that your job is to create, oftentimes the best way to create things is just simply to show up. So if you're a writer and you have a writing area, make sure that you're going to that area and you're sitting down and you're trying to write. If you're a musician, make sure that you're sitting down at your board or whatever instrument you play, and you just sit there and you put yourself in a position and you try and see what happens. But so that's one thing that I would strongly suggest to all creatives, not necessarily to wait for the inspiration, but go ahead and show up and put yourself in the position to find inspiration. All right, so this is my quick list of things that I've applied into my life that help me out whenever I find myself dealing with like a creative block and to kind of try to get the gears going. Are these things that you guys already apply to your life? Are these things that you can start applying to your life? Do you have your own set of processes and things that you follow whenever you find yourself in a creative way? If you do, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Also, please make sure that you smash that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Y'all be blessed. Y'all take it easy.